Hey folks, this is Matt once again, and this was another one that Corey, very nice guy, sent me. Heroes of Horror, which I believe these were done by A&E Biography. I could be wrong on that. Yeah, it says here, A&E Network. It's 5 45-minute documentaries on a 2-disc set. The first disc has Boris Karloff, Bela Lugosi, and Lon Chaney Jr., and disc 2 has Vincent Price and Peter Lorre. And this was really cool. I'm glad Corey sent this. It was a lot of fun. Not only do you have the documentaries, but you have bonus features. You have quite a few trailers from each of these guys, which is really nice. I love trailers. You have little clips that I'm surprised they got away with. For example, for Vincent Price, they have a little featurette from Edward Scissorhands. I was surprised by. You have a couple interviews with Bela Lugosi. This nice little bit that I wish was in this, but that's fine because it's on the features of this, which is Bela Lugosi and Boris Karloff staring at each other, and then you think something's going to go down, but they're ready to play chess with each other, which you can find the clip on YouTube, but it's nice that it's on this DVD and the features. I thought that was a fun clip with these two guys, Bela and Boris. And again, really my only complaint is that it's 45 minutes. I wish each one, honestly, was 2 hours long. I know people feel that's too long, but I only say that because I wish I could have heard more in depth on some of these guys' films, especially the lesser known films, or even the more well-known films that go a little bit deeper on them. But because they're only 44, 45 minutes long each, they made so many movies, they can only take a certain amount of time to go through their career from life to death, from when they were born to when they died. But if you're at all a fan of these guys and a fan of old school horror, this is definitely worth it. By Image Entertainment. You have one on Boris Karloff, which you get interviews from Roddy McDowall, among other people, Carol Burnett, Peter Bogdanovich, the director. Roddy McDowall had worked with Boris Karloff on something. At one time, Boris Karloff was on Carol Burnett's show. Peter Bogdanovich made Target, which was pretty much one of the last big films Boris Karloff was in, which I haven't seen, but it looks pretty good. They pretty much talk about how he of course, being born, it was hard for him to get work, getting Frankenstein, after it being a success story, getting The Mummy, all these other horror films, The Ghoul, doing these Val Lewton films. Then later on he would do plays, and he'd be a narrator of radio shows and fairy tales. Roddy McDowall had actually worked with him, now that I remember, Heart of Darkness. Believe it or not, Boris Karloff, remember Apocalypse Now when Marlon Brando did the horror? The horror. Boris Karloff did that first. He did that well before, because you see the clip. I mean, it's a completely different type of film. It's not a Vietnam War movie, but it's at a different location. But you get the idea that it's probably the same plot. And again, you have Boris Karloff in Roddy McDowall's arms, and Boris Karloff saying that line, the horror. The horror. I'm like, oh shit. I always thought Marlon Brando said that first, but no, Boris Karloff. They do mention that Boris Karloff did become the voice of the Grinch. They tell a little bit about the making of Target, which looked interesting. So very fascinating look on Boris Karloff. Bela Lugosi, which I know previously I talked about this. This was a bit more flashier, and a bit more finely tuned, put together. But this one is a good companion piece because some of the stuff that doesn't talk about, this does, and vice versa. And this one has a bit more interviews with his actual son, Marlon Lando, who would play Bela and Ed Wood, Ray Walston, of My Favorite Martian, among others, who had worked with Bela Lugosi once. Forrest J. Ackerman, who worked on Famous Monsters magazine. He pretty much created it. And I already told you pretty much his life story when I talked about this, so it's some of the same stuff, but you get different a couple of the same clips, but you do get different clips in this that you would find in this. That's why I say I think they're both a good companion piece with each other. You have Lon Chaney Jr. They talk about his early roles, about his name wasn't Lon Chaney Jr. to start off with. Hell, when he was born, he was premature, and Lon Chaney Sr. took the baby, who they didn't know if it was going to live, and dipped him in water so that the baby could, start crying. Thus, he's alive. How, in order to get some success, he had to change his name to Lon Chaney Jr. so that students can use his name. Since he was so poor, and helped him get jobs. Working, getting the Wolfman. Then after that, in the 40s, he got pretty much anything. He got Son of Dracula. He got quite a few of the Mummy films. He was in Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman. He played the Frankenstein monster at one point. And they kind of skimp over why he began drinking alcohol, but they mentioned that he got into heavy drinking and alcoholism throughout the last bits of his career, and how he was just in these really sort of C, D grade films by the end. So, kind of depressing, but still an interesting documentary. All these are, in my opinion. Peter Lorre, which is definitely one of the most interesting, because he's the one, I know Peter Lorre. I've seen him in movies, but he's the one I knew the least of. So, very interesting. He was doing plays. He did Fritz Lang's M. The Man Who Knew Too Much with Alfred Hitchcock, the black and white one, not the one I reviewed. This is the original one. It was his first English-speaking part. He did this series of films called Mr. Moto, which I didn't even know about, but apparently they were very popular because there was like 8 of them. And then by the end he was getting frustrated creatively, and then he did The Maltese Falcon and Casablanca. He tried to be independent company, and that failed. Yeah, a lot of these guys have problems. Like Bela Lugosi had a drug problem, Lon Chaney Jr. with alcoholism, Peter Lorre became morphine. They talk about the last few films he did in the 60s. They mentioned 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea and Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea. So I thought that was pretty interesting. And I say that because there wasn't much about him that I knew. Fritz Lang's M I had heard about, but I didn't know that he played a child murderer. Which, considering the timeline, like the 30s, not many movies about that subject matter. So, pretty ballsy. And there's some of the more humorous films he did later with Boris Karloff and Vincent Price, The Raven, Comedy of Terrors. So, yeah, I didn't even know about those. And then you have Vincent Price. Actually, one of the people interviewed for Vincent Price is Dennis Hopper, which is sad because he's no longer with us as well. But how, Vincent Price also did plays in Broadway. And he also was really big into art collecting. Films they mentioned, The House of Wax, The Fly, William Castle films like House on Haunted Hill, Roger Corman flicks, mainly his Edgar Allan Poe stuff like The Pit and the Pendulum, Mask of Red Death. They even mentioned his appearance on the Batman TV show as Eggman. Very briefly on Dr. Phibes. Some people interviewed on that segment, not only Dennis Hopper, but Roger Corman, Roddy McDowall, who had also worked with Vincent Price on, I forget what it was. They talk about how he did a one-man show on Oscar Wilde. They do mention that he was the voice on Thriller. That's why I wish it was 2 hours for each of these, because I wanted to learn more about how did he get the job for Thriller. I mean, I know I believe Michael Jackson was probably a fan, but like, how did that all work out? How did Vincent Price feel about it, and the popularity afterward? And same with, like, let me know more about Dr. Phibes, the making of Dr. Phibes, and what do you think of the idea? Did the guy enjoy making it? More about the film itself. That's why I wish these were longer, because I want to hear more. That's why it's like they touch on a lot of this stuff and do like the little brief, sometimes not even that. But I just wish these were longer so I could get more in depth. To me, you can't have too much. You can only have too little. Because if you have too much, that's what the fast forward button is for. If you have too little, you can do nothing. So, but that's just me. I'm greedy. And they also talk about one of the last things he did, which was Edward Scissorhands. Yeah, if you're at all a fan of these guys, I like that cover too. I think that's a really cool cover. I think it's definitely worth it. I mean, if someone had to ask me which I liked more, I would say this one, just because, again, you get 5 of them, and I like having trailers on there, as well as some of the little features they had. Yeah, I was surprised they had the feature of Edward Scissorhands on here. I don't know how they got the rights for that. Oh, maybe that's why it is. This says Fox Star. Was Edward Scissorhands 20th Century Fox? I can't remember now. I haven't seen Edward Scissorhands in forever. So if someone will let me know what studio that was with. Well, not really. I could just look it up later. But yeah, this was really cool, very interesting, very informative. Again, my only issue is I wish it was longer. I wish each one was longer. But you do get a lot. I mean, you think about it, these are 5 stuff, each one about 44, 45 minutes a piece. So you get a lot of bang for your buck in this. So, I definitely think this is a cool thing to have. So Corey, if you're watching, this is really cool. Thank you so much. Like I said before, I really enjoy documentaries on YouTube. You can find a lot. There's Universal Horror. There's stuff on Hammer Horror Films. There's stuff on well, a lot of stuff. But that's why a lot of times I want to get Blu-rays, not because of the movie, but because I want to hear more about the making of the movie. Even if it's a movie I'm not really that much of a fan of, I like hearing about the intricacies of, making a film. I'm always curious about that, interested in that. But either way, those are my thoughts on Heroes of Horror. Not horror, Heroes of Horror. So thanks for watching, take care, and we will see you later. Bye-bye.